Welcome back. So, I have seen tonight a few videos popping up that are making me a little wistful. They are people playing No Man's Sky one last time using the old system, the old algorithms, the old planet generation setups before Next is released tomorrow. So I thought I would try this out as well. It's an interesting idea. And luckily, I also thought of a way of doing it that would make it a bit of an archive for my own purposes. And what I'm going to try and archive tonight will serve two purposes. First, it will show what planets are like during Atlas Rises, which are pretty similar to what planets were like previously. Although we recently learned that the flying worms we see in the sky now during Atlas Rises are the vestigial tails of the giant sandworms that showed up in the very first No Man's Sky trailers. But not only will we see these planets, I'm also going to get a chance to document the way that I personally explore a system. And I have no idea yet whether the tools that will be released with Next will make it easier to explore a system or not. I suspect so in many ways. I don't know if the particular things that I do to explore a system are going to be made easier or not. So I'll explain what's going on, what I'm doing. I'm realizing now that I actually have something with my TV that I need to tweak. I have a pretty good TV, but I have a difference in opinion as to whether or not you want to see really super smooth frame rate when you're gaming versus when you're watching a movie. And I generally like to keep artificial frame rate, much less any frame rate, pretty low when I'm watching a movie, and raise it to play games. So I just raised it for gaming. Alright, so I'm here on this lush world. I'm in a system. I can guarantee you that it is a Korvax system because I'm most interested in Korvax lore. And so a while ago I decided, in a sort of spoiled fashion, that I was only going to bother, also because I'm playing creative mode and I can just do that I was only going to bother exploring Korvax systems. I was most interested in Korvax lore. I don't know, it's hard to explain. But anyway, I'm in a Korvax system, and I'm only going to explore Korvax systems in this Let's Play. I should also say that I am... what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Well, let's follow these guys for a minute. Because we really don't know what's going to change and what's not going to change when Next is released. So we'll follow these guys and I'll tell a little story. I hope I can remember what I was going to say before at some point here. Korvax system. I really don't remember. That's a bummer. Anyway, I'm following these ships because this is the old way. And in fact, this predates... I mean, I guess actually what this does is it predates the economy scanner. This is the old way that I used to find trading posts playing in pre-Atlas Rises No Man's Sky. I would find a couple of ships, I would follow them around at a discreet distance so they didn't think I was going to attack them, and eventually, inevitably, they would either lead me to a trading post or they would lead me to a point where they were heading up towards the space station. And almost always, if you look down below, when the ships around you are heading up towards the space station, you'll also find a trading post. That's one thing that I have no idea whether or not is going to change. Look at this little outcrop. Oh, with a little language cipher on top. These are the kinds of when they say things about the scale changing in Next, I have no idea, but I kind of suspect that those are the kinds of things that we can anticipate changing. Like, and I don't know what it means for the scale to change. I mean, does it mean that, you know, me as a player character on this world Will the worlds be more vast simply because I'll be in essence scaled down? I don't know. You know, it's hard to say what the algorithms are doing or have done. And I would love to see some kind of behind-the-scenes treatment by Hello Games about what exactly the algorithms are doing or have done between version to version. But we don't know. I really don't want to run into one of these guys. Anyway, so this is a lush planet that I found the other day. I decided I was going to find a lush planet here, and I should also say I'm in the Eisentam system. I have recently made the jump to the next galaxy, and I did choose a lush or tranquil galaxy. I'm excited about being in Eisentam, and although the Galactic Atlas is only the Euclid galaxy, I don't know. I like playing in such a way that I can choose whether or not I run into people, how many people I run into, and depending on how they implement other players, I want to be able to get away from, let's just be honest, I want to be able to get away from griefers if the game or certain parts or areas of the galaxy become a breeding ground for pirate griefers. People role-playing pilots, people just being griefers, you know. So I moved on to Eisentam, and that's where I am now. I haven't really looked much into the player community on Eisentam. And honestly, for me, I've been somewhat happy with No Man's Sky being a solitary, sort of meditative, exploratory venture. I would be looking forward to next, even if the only changes coming were improvements to, you know, the planetary generation algorithms and the system generation algorithms, and it were still a solo game. You know, but I like the idea of a new influx of activity, and I should say I've been playing this since launch day in 2016. My oldest playlist of videos is No Man's Sky. In fact, I have one video on there. The very first video I ever did on the PS4 was testing out my little setup here and doing this before the day one patch. So if you were to go to my very earliest video, which is also at the start of the playlist on Planetary System Kynad Dren, you would be able to see what No Man's Sky, I don't know if it was this number at the time, but 0.9 looked like and felt like as you moved around. So that could be interesting. Anyway, I'm in Eisentam, I'm in a Korvax system, and what I'm going to show you, in addition to a number of other planets, is the way that I systematically explore a system. So currently, here is the problem with encountering a new system. If you encounter a new system, oh, that's nice. I like how the light lit up the terrain under him. Oh, there's another player base. That's great. And it is going to be neat to be able to put player bases everywhere, because honestly, oh, there comes Dawn. Honestly and frankly, what I'm going to try to do is build sort of my personal equivalent of homemade ruins, or do-it-yourself, or homebrew ruins. I want to build mysterious structures and places, not necessarily for me to return to, but for others to find in the days and weeks and months and years to come. And I hope this stuff sticks around. I hope they've made plans for a little more resilience and permanence to the things that we build, the things that we encounter, the things that we name. Because as far as I know right now, the only thing that remains the same over time are the animals on a given planet. And even that's going to change now too, finally, which is interesting. Alright, well, I'm not going to, I don't think, there's no real point in reaching a trading post. I have nothing in particular to do at a trading post except perhaps show what one looks like prior to next. And the dawn is here. So I'm going to go ahead and land and just take a look around while we have the dawn on this lush planet in No Man's Sky. Pre-Next. And as I was saying a little bit ago, No Man's Sky Pre-Next is relatively similar to No Man's Sky from the start. there's some differences. And in fact, some of those differences meant my very first favorite world is completely different now. But this is what a lush world looks like in No Man's Sky prior to Next. It's nice, right? I like it. It's not bad. It's grassy. There are creatures around, these kind of armadillo creatures. I like to feed the creatures. I hope I can still feed the creatures. Uh-oh, if I'm fast enough to catch them. Come on, bud. Yeah, you go. Yes. You're my friend. Be my space friend. You make little noises that I'm not going to be sad to see become something more interesting. Little butterflies here. Can't get too close. And you know, I don't even scan creatures anymore. Because since I play creative mode, I don't need the units. And I just don't, I don't know. Here's the thing. Once I learned that after each update everything could change, some of the appeal of naming things and staking your sort of claim, such as it is, some of that appeal went away. There you go, buddy. Be fed. Be happy. So here's a typical crazy little creature in No Man's Sky pre-Next, complete with squeals. They're not bad. I mean, well, okay. Alright, I'll be honest. They're relatively bad. And I've seen, I have to confess, I've seen a little bit of pre-release gameplay on YouTube, and I mean, I'm not worried about spoilers because I'm going to be playing this game one way or the other. And I saw some creatures as goofy as these, to be sure. I saw some other creatures that were a lot cooler. You know, I think there's room for everything. The thing with No Man's Sky, from reading an article that I probably won't link in the comments because I'm doing this live on PS4 and I'll forget, had to do with just studying the underlying structure through which No Man's Sky created the diversity of its shapes and systems and what have you. And the main point of the article, let's get over to where we can see a vista over the landscape. The main point of the article was that a little bit of content in No Man's Sky, oh, this guy is quite possibly a predator. A little bit of content in No Man's Sky went a long way. That by adding just a few parts, you ended up with the potential for many orders of magnitude of additional unknown creatures. And every time you added a new part, you added a lot of complexity. So since I'm playing in creative mode, this ferocious beast doesn't really affect me very much. But we're going to get a good capture of a ferocious beast in No Man's Sky pre-Next. Not much of a roar going on there. But you know, he still has his own charm. And I have to say, the very first time I encountered a beast like this with a head like a giant squid, it absolutely terrified me. It terrified me partly because I was doing something else, and the next thing I knew, and this was before creative mode, I was just, you know, oh, look at that amazing little rock on the ground. Oh my god, this thing is ripping my face off, and its head is a giant squid. I mean, because of the generative algorithms, which are really like a form of, you know those books where you have, like when you were a kid, where you had three sort of flip-up panels to make different monsters, and you know, then you could make one and name it something if you wanted. The system in No Man's Sky is a bit like that currently, with blending. Creatures can be larger or smaller, but there's definitely a, yes, this thing has, obviously now, you know, this thing, the, let's go ahead, why not? The Cormastusium enwarda has the same body as this fellow over here, this ferocious creature. Oh, he's the same genus and or species. Well, species, I guess. That's great then. That's at least good news. Different heads, same species. But the more... Oh, a storm. Let's go ahead and capture this. So we got a storm coming in. The clouds are kind of racing over the landscape. And that's what that looks like at present. Again, since I'm in creative mode, I don't need to worry about my exosuit pooping out on me or anything else like that, and that's just how I roll. If we were playing survival mode or normal mode, we could, and we still can, duck into a cave. We should probably do that for old time's sake here before we leave this world. Duck into a cave and the temperature would decrease. So let's go ahead and go in here. Raining now, probably acid rain of some sort or another. Ah, nice little screen, visor effects. Now, notice I'm in first person. I know that one thing that I'm going to really enjoy, frankly, about No Man's Sky Next and or No Man's Sky 2 is to be able to play in third person. But one really cool thing I saw, I guess technically this is a spoiler. Should I talk about it or not? What the heck, why not? One thing I saw, by the way, did you see there where it said temperature effect, or temperature stabilizing? Let's go back out. This is what getting in a cave will do for you. There we go. And in relatively short order. I saw that if you're playing in third person, you're walking around and everything is as you would imagine it to be, but then when you zoom in on something like this, that's when it zooms in to this mode, first person mode. And I honestly think that's a brilliant solution to that particular challenge, that UI design challenge. Clearly I'm going to jabber through this whole thing, but that's okay. You can always turn off the audio if you just want to see what it looked like. One thing I have always loved about No Man's Sky, from the very beginning, were the caves. Regardless of any other flaws, I can say with certainty that I made a long, ridiculous, geeky video about this at the time. The very first time I personally ever got lost in a cave was in a No Man's Sky cave. And letting that sink in for a moment, when I was lost in that cave, yes, I could, oh my gosh, there's a predator, like, yes, oh, he can sense me above him. That's interesting. Which means when I come out, he will be tracking me. Anyway, when I got lost in a cave in No Man's Sky, I genuinely felt the kind of disorientation and panic. Like, it felt real in that sense. It felt real in the sense that I really felt like I had been lost in a cave. I felt like I had been lost in a random space, constructed through forces beyond my understanding, with rules of its own that I could never hope to understand. That's what it means to be lost in a cave. Here's something we may or may not see anymore, these floating chunks of rock. Okay, you know what? What I'm not doing, and what I promised I would do, is document my system exploration system, or my system exploration method, I should say. Here's what I mean by that. What I started to say a few minutes ago. It's relatively difficult to explore fully a No Man's Sky system. And part of the reason is, even if you land on a planet, you don't necessarily... Like, you can see that you've been there before. You can see in the scanner that it says, quote unquote, you discovered this. But it's very easy, if you're looking at a system for the first time, to end up right back where you started. And you'll usually recognize it, but you'll be like, oh yeah, if I had just named this planet, I wouldn't have had to come back here because I would have known what it was. So my system for exploring planets, I probably should go in the water while I'm here. Yeah, it was a little disorienting. Sorry about that. So my system for exploring a planetary system is is basically you name a world once you've been there, and using the information you have from your trip, you let that inform your judgment, and you name it. I personally name planets using material found in their original name. I find that more elegant. I find it easier. I basically use the original randomized or pseudo-randomized or quasi-randomized planetary name as a writing prompt, and I make up a new name. So that's what I'm going to do. Oh, no, those are shadows. Interesting. So no fish here. Oops, I don't need my gun. I do want to see what this little mushroom coral creature is here. It's pretty cool. Alright, so let's do it. Let's demonstrate. Here I am on this lush planet. And this is either they will invent some feature or tool that will make this method obsolete, or it will still be useful tomorrow when No Man's Sky Next is released. What is that over there? Oh, I see. It's something. It's a monolith. I guess I'll take a look since I should capture that as well. I might switch out my ship. Okay, am I going to visit the monolith? I am. Oh wait, it's not. Is it a monolith? Yeah, I guess it is. You know, something I haven't seen in a long time. Really? How can it not be clear? Something I haven't seen in a while is... That's nice. Little grassy plaza. Is a monolith underwater. They used to happen with some frequency. Okay, there's that. Tiny language monolith explored. Alright, it's time to leave. Time to leave and explore the other planets in this system. And it'd be nice to explore at least one more. Up, shadows are falling. Already, dusk is coming to this world. Alright, time to go. Now, just gonna get myself above the fray. Ooh, maybe. These exotic ships are fast, I have to admit. Now, I'm pretty sure I have not explored any other systems. Or rather, I'm sorry, planets. What? Cannot warp here. Unfortunate. And I see the comments being made. Thank you guys for making comments. Unfortunately, I can't see what they are because of my setup. And what's weird is I go to YouTube and try to find them and I can't find them. And I can't seem to find them on PlayStation either, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on. What I'm doing wrong. Thank you. Okay. So what I'm doing here is bringing up my old school freighter. And my goal is to switch out my ship with one from a different world. And this will give us a chance to see pre-next freighters. This is the best freighter I found, pre-next. I do like it. Guess I should give it one last sort of flyby, since it's probably going to be either obsolete or completely, you know, vanished. What I liked about it was the front. I really liked this kind of wedge-shaped look to it. Let me get myself up a bit higher so I can show you what I mean. There we go. Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go. See, look at that. Now, you have to admit, that freighter cuts a nice figure, right? And you can see these ships flying around it, wanting to board, but I currently have 5 ships docked on there of my own, which is the max you can have. You can have 6 ships. So apparently these guys can't land. I don't know why, because there are still a couple of separate bays. I guess if one of them landed, I couldn't. So my goal here is to A, hop in and get the ship from the exotic ship from my first favorite system. Just covered it in another video, Hyena Dren, from the Euclid Galaxy. And then we're going to map the rest of this particular star system. And again, the whole point of this video, if you're just joining us, is to capture gameplay the day before No Man's Sky Next, when things are speculated to change quite significantly. You know, and I don't even know if maybe I'll never see my ships again. That would be a bummer. I've got a system for naming my ships based on the place they came from. And in fact, that's how I can find Hyena Dren, the ship from the system of my heart and my dreams in Euclid. Which is no longer anything like what it was. Whole video series on that. This one from a system with the name of Petrovaeth. I think Petrovaeth would be the planet, and in this case, Bawain would have been the planet. I found this ship, and Ekimanta would have been the system name, and KX would be Korvax. It was a Korvax system, and it was in EU, the Euclid Galaxy. That's how this works. But this baby has been with me a while, does not use that naming convention. It is simply Farseeker. So I hope I still have Farseeker. In fact, what the heck? I hope Farseeker has been textured with all these wonderful new amazing textures and is still Farseeker, and the Farseeker that I know and love when No Man's Sky Next comes out. But for now, what I'm going to do, head on up here to, let's look at this guy. Yeah, see, I didn't bother naming, you know, what species was in this system. I think one thing I did do in this case was name my ship after the abandoned ship, Jep, when I gave up the ship. So here's the thing. I like to use and reuse what the game gives me as writing prompts. So Hyena Dren was the planet I found this ship. Bosornua must have been... Oh, I guess Bosornua might have been the name of this ship before I took it over. And Hiyuhaike was the name of the first generation of this ship, which I abandoned to get a slightly better one. I haven't installed that stuff yet. Just for fun, I'll go ahead and install my economy scanner and conflict scanner. We'll get to see how technology installation worked. Okay, let's go. We're going to map this system in short order, I promise you. Okay, here's the deal. Here's the planet I was on. I believe as yet it has no name. Now actually, let's take a moment, go to the galaxy map, take a look around. And so now we get to see the galaxy map in No Man's Sky prior to Next. This is the first system, maybe? I'm already not sure. That I awoke on. Let me look around here. Whoops! I did not mean to do that, actually. Yeah, I think so. So, can that be? Yeah. I must have awakened on that planet. I basically redid my system finding. But you know, I have that conflict scanner, so that can't be. Anyway, doesn't matter. Here's the galaxy map. There's where I am. I labeled it as a Korvax system currently. That changes, even if the name stays the same, I now know. Because the very first system I started on when I played No Man's Sky, I went back there. It is no longer controlled by the same faction or race as it was. But for now, I'm going to quit this, go back to how I explore this system. So, Anwe Dren, I did name this planet. Anwe, I believe, is probably drawn from the original name of this world. And Dren is the world I use essentially for lush planets, dreamlike, wonderful, lovely planets. Here's what I do if I want to explore a whole system. So I want to be able to go to these other worlds and know which ones I have been to. Oh, I've already explored that one. So Exo Majoladi is an exotic planet, an exotic world. It has some artifact. We'll go, because I don't remember what it was, we'll go back and check that out. Majoladi is probably pretty close to the original name of the world. If we continue to orbit our field of vision until we see another world, here we find New Lidushel. Now, I did not name that. I landed on it apparently, but I did not name it. Since I've been... I saw more worlds than that. So here's the thing. If you look at your planetary map, at least in No Man's Sky prior to Next, you will see we've got... you actually don't see it in the name display, which is kind of dumb. But you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 worlds. And you can tell that just by counting. If you go back, escape. If you go back and check out your system view, come on, there you go. You will see that this is a 5-planet system. Currently, we've got that one, which I named already. It's an exotic planet. We've got Anwe Dren, which I named. It's a lush planet. Suffix Dren. And that leaves 2 other planets that we cannot see from where we are now. So how do you find those but still keep yourself oriented? Here's the trick I use. And I'm going to pretend for the moment that I have not yet found and named... Oh wait, there's another one. Unknown planet. Well great, that will be one I go to. So... there it is. Oh, that's interesting. Generally, at least in current No Man's Sky, prior to Next, the planets kind of array themselves in a vague sort of a ring. Like, by that I mean if you go like this and sort of scan upwards, upwards being relative, you will hit the next planet. So that's 1 planet, 2 planets, 3 planets. Keep going up, quote unquote. And I should have run into, there it is, 4 planets. But there's one that's hiding. It's probably hiding behind this one. It might be far away. How are we going to find it? This challenge may continue to exist, regardless of any changes they make to the algorithm. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to scan the horizon visually to find the nearest planet. Now, normally, technically, that would be this one. but I want to rule out this exotic world, so I'm going to pretend for now that it's this one. What I'll eventually do is end up back here, having lastly explored this one. Although that's I'm going to call it 3 hours, well, you know, 3 hours and 30 minutes away. So it's quite a ways away. There may be a hidden world before then. So I'm going to head towards this one. It's pretty close. Now, what do I do to make sure that I can find the next world that's going to be my target? The answer to that is I scan the horizon until I find... See, there's one missing. Scan the horizon. There it is. It must be this way. Until I find the next world that I have not explored, and I make sure to find a way to have it end up in my viewfinder, on my radar. Man, it's almost like it's off orbit, like it's not in the orbital plane. And I don't know, maybe they're going to fix everything about orbital planes. Maybe all this will make perfect sense in the future. But there was an ice world that I've seen several times that I am not finding. This messed me up when I first played, because I explored several worlds. I thought I thought I had found them all, and then someone else named my worlds out from under me, as it were, because there was one missing, there was one hiding, and finding that was a trick. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and in the process we're going to get to see several worlds pre-No Man's Sky Next. And I'm sorry this took some exposition. Here's how we do that. We know we're orbiting this giant guy here. We don't want to go there next. We want to go here next. We know from here we're going to want to go here. So how we do that is we aim for the horizon here. And what that's going to do is it's going to put our next target for exploration clearly in our field of view. Now, since I've already been to this world, I've named it. I've named it using part of its original name and the prefix EXO. The prefix EXO tells me, and would tell you if you knew that I did this and came after me, that this is an exotic world, that this is a world with monoliths or geometric figures or 20-sided cogs or what have you. We're going to turn ourselves around so the horizon is in the right place. So we're going to see what's here. And again, finally, 20 minutes into this stupid video, you're getting to see what planets were like in No Man's Sky prior to Next. So the nice thing about exploring a system fully, really being systematic about hitting each planet, is that you get to see a wide range of worlds. You don't just quickly skip. You might quickly skip, but you don't skip from one world to the next until you have at least seen enough of that world to name it. Now, what's weird here is I named this as an exotic world, but I don't see anything to tell me that that's what's going on here. So I don't know why I did that. I'm going to go ahead and land in case that tells me. But currently this just looks like a forested, icy planet. So why is that? I have no idea. Well, let's land and see if there are any clues. Hazardous whiteouts, sub-zero planet. Why did I name this as an exotic world? Was that a mistake? Oh, there's some bat-like creatures. Well, clear. One thing I'll miss if and when they go to third-person view is actually the visor effects of having like frost around the edges of your screen, etc., etc. I actually really like that. I kind of hope that they give you a way to leave that intact. This is really weird. 1 second. I am recording, but I'm going to check in with my partner here. What's up? That's right. What time is that? Okay. So I'll pause this in a few minutes and we'll do that. Okay. So I'm going to pause this video in a few minutes and I will just come back to this in a little bit. I guess maybe before I do that, the last thing I'll say in this truncated video is that I saw something a few days ago that made me wonder whether some of the changes were rolled out early. And that was a creature of a type I had never seen before on any other world. And here I am on this world that I clearly named an exo world, and it's not an exotic world at all. It is a world of a type that I used to call Zub, X-U-B, meaning suboptimal. It's cold, it's frigid, it's not a place with much life. We're getting a good sense of what its scale is like, what the tree life is like, so we can compare that to No Man's Sky Next tomorrow and beyond. But it is definitely not an exotic world. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if something has changed. I don't know if I just made a mistake when I named it, but it is not. So when I come back in a new video, we will continue this exploration, and I'll continue to show you a range of planets in No Man's Sky prior to Next, what they looked like, and detail the naming system and the exploration system I use to make sure that I can hit all the planets in the system. Oh, the storm's coming, so I'm a little curious about how intense that's going to be. Let's just take a quick look, and then we'll end. But I'll be back, I promise.